I wanted to read
Sure.
the TV shows, movies, and books I'm in. My first CD, Vietnam Blues, got me on country music television. It's won 5 honorable mention certificates in the Billboard magazine song contest, and they didn't even have a blues section at that time. And it's been used in numerous documentaries on PTSD and homelessness among veterans. And I'm really proud of the good and the honors that it's received.
And the fellow on the front there of that?
Well, that's me top and bottom. What an ego trip. At the top, I'm at our wall here at Wesley Boland Plaza in Phoenix. And on the bottom, I'm out in the jungle on a trail break on actual mission, and looking down my breached open M79 grenade launcher barrel. And then on the back is a picture of me drawn by my daughter when she was 18 years old and 17 years old. And how old is she now?
39.
39 now she is. So
I don't know if she wants us to know.
yeah, maybe I shouldn't have. But then I took my CD and I put slideshows with every one of the songs and made this DVD. It's a special Boonie Rat edition, and this has me with my Italian wraparound sunglasses and a bamboo pipe, and actually out in the boonies. That's they'd give us cigarettes, but the paper would get wet. You had to smoke the tobacco in a pipe. And this is my baby here. This is my best friend in Vietnam, my second tour, my M60 machine gun on the guard tower around Phan Rang. And she never came home with a bullet. I'd fire off all my ammo every time before I'd come in from guard duty, and they'd ring, 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 ring. No, I heard it, but I think it's down that way. Yeah. They never looked at, Sarge hasn't got any ammo. They could have caught me easy, but they let me slide. I bagged a mongoose and made a water buffalo run. I didn't want to shoot somebody's whole family wealth, so I just herded him out of there with my bullets. This new CD features Lee Oscar on 2 songs. Kenny Skaggs from the Glenn Campbell Band plays a beautiful slide steel guitar on Arizona Desert Blues, my country western. And Barrelhouse Chuck, a very famous blues piano player out of Chicago, plays that piano on a number of my songs, and it's hot. Just say it, babe.
Producer.
My producer, Clark, my memory just gave me a message. My producer is Clark Rigsby, and he personally plays guitar, and on every one of these songs except one he plays a banjo on. So I'm really proud of that. This is Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Blues, and we did a Kickstarter project on the internet, Kickstarter.com, where you present your project. We ask for $1,000, and for 20 or more, they got a copy of the Vietnam Blues. For 50 or more, they got a copy of the new CD. For 50 or more, they got this and the Vietnam Blues. And for 100 or more, they got both of those plus the DVD of the Vietnam Blues. So we were funded 153%. I got $1,553, and that paid for the actual replication of the CDs and got us 1,000 of these puppies right here, which I'm burning through pretty good.
Good. And you feel this, the music has not only helped you, but other veterans in
This
coping.
is totally written to help our current veterans coming home with PTSD. Every song is listed, and then it has how this relates to PTSD. Ptsd Blues, the first song. This is what PTSD felt like to me for many years, having made it home alive, but unable to get my mind out of the combat zone. So each one, it may be a funny song that you can't figure out or the country western one, Arizona Desert Blues, how does this relate to PTSD? Well, it's Arizona Moon at midnight. Who's a casual desert visitor at midnight out there? And he's living in a canyon. It's a tripwire vet living in the desert. And we have them. So I tried to help not only the new vets coming home with PTSD, but their families to understand it better. And we have our quirks. I've never been able to comply with the census. I felt so abandoned by my government after I got out of the Army that I feel insulted that they want information from me, and I feel doubly insulted that they don't feel like we need to have that Fifth Amendment. It says right there, under penalty of law. So to me that means you don't have to do it if you don't want to, because of self-incrimination or whatever. But anyway, I've never been able to comply with the census. I'm sure they've counted me every time, but I don't make it easy on them. And my song Census Blues on my new CD says, if they want to know who lives in this house, tell them 400 roaches and a big fat mouse.
And you have something else you want to share in the book?
I put a lot of humor in my serious music because PTSD vets are very depressed to begin with. I do not want to add to that. So I try to lift the mood up. I'll have something a little serious and then boom, 400 roaches and a big fat mouse. So I've been on country music television. The show was Small Town Secrets, and the episode I was in is Cowgirls, Combines, and Commandos. Luckily, they put me in the commando section. I performed a song they asked me to write for the show. They had us meet them down in Tucson at the Arizona Airplane Boneyard, and I was ready with my song Buried in the Boneyard Blues, that each refrain ends in a little bit of my heart is buried in the boneyard too. And that was a wonderful segment that I got to do. They had me inside the hull of an old C-130 jamming on my harmonica and singing my song in 114-degree desert heat, I might add. We had to keep running to the car and AC in it to cool down. The movie I'm most proud of is In the Shadow of the Blade. And while they interview, the Blade is the Huey helicopter blade. And while they interview the women veterans, they play my song Sister Soldier. And that's especially meaningful to me. I tried not to leave the women veterans out of my work. I like to say we male Vietnam veterans got the short end of the stick, but the women Vietnam veterans didn't even get to feel the bark.
Tell them about the memorial.
Yes, I have a poem called Invisible Soldier for the women veterans that they asked me to write for the dedication ceremony of the Women Veterans Memorial out here at the Memorial Cemetery. And I read it at the ceremony, sitting up in the 2 rows of folding chairs on the stage waiting to be speaker after speaker. And when the ceremony was over, instead of us moving out, the audience moved in. 36 women veterans surrounded Leslie and I, and Leslie's getting all the names and addresses. They wanted a copy of this poem. A day or 2 later, we get a call at home. The ladies that were putting the monument together asked if they could put it on cast it in bronze and put it on a pedestal right by their memorial where it stands today. Okay. I'm so proud of that. It says Sarge Linicum on it. And if you go in the office where you look up the grave you're trying to find, they have a field cross memorial there that's a sculpted M16 bayoneted into the ground with a helmet on top and boots beside it. That would be how we could have a service for the guys that just got killed and taken out. He's gone in a body bag, but we would have a little service for him out in the jungle called the Field Cross Memorial. And in the back of this M16 and helmet is a big marble slab, and the words on it I was hired to. They bought the words from me, so it doesn't have my name on it, but I wrote, "In memory of all who served in Vietnam at great cost, and of those brave men and women whose lives were lost." And so I did the words on that memorial as well. In the Shadow of the Blade, it plays on the military channel, and it's just an awesome, you can buy it on the internet. It's an awesome film. A boy named Joshua, they came from Denmark, put in the search engine Vietnam veteran, and they came up with the VVA and a couple other veteran clubs and me. I'm all over the internet. I did a military invasion of the internet. And they had me go up to Sedona, Leslie and I, in the beautiful Red Hill. And they sat me on the hilltop, and they had the star of the movie, I think a 9-year-old boy, at the foot of the hill, and roll him, and up he comes to meet me. And it's all not scripted. Just say what you feel. And I said hi to him, and then I said, you see that open patch way out there? He said, yeah, there wasn't even no open patch out. He says, yeah. I said, I've been tracking you since you come through there. I watched you come all the way here. And then he's sitting down beside me, and I say, how old are you? He says, 9. I say, I wish I could see things through 9-year-old eyes again. I see this beautiful ridge line over there, and I can't enjoy the beauty because I'm scanning it for troop movements. I hear these people plinking their gun over here at a target shooting a tin can, and that's Charlie, man. I can't see it like you do at 9 with 9-year-old eyes. And this kid had run away from home, and he's going all around. He talks to a clown in makeup driving a car on the way to a gig, and he goes into a mortuary and talks to the people in there. And they called us up from when they got back to Denmark and said, Sarge, this is turning into the Sarge show in the editing room. We keep putting more of you in here and there. So I got a exaggerated part out of that. Also, that's a boy named Joshua. The books I'm in, Battle Notes, Music of the Vietnam War by Lee Andriessen, Savage Press. My review of this book is at the beginning. It's the first words in the book are my review of it. I'm on pages 87, line 27 through 125. line 7 after Creedence Clearwater, line 159, or page 159, line 7 after Willie Nelson. And I'm just so thrilled to be in that book, and they really appreciated it. In fact, Lee Andreessen calls me up, and the first thing he says is, "Sarge, I'm mad at you." I said, "What did I do?" He says, "Well, I thought I was all done with my book, and then I find you on the internet. Now I not only have to add you, how could I have a book about music of the Vietnam War without including the music that the veterans made?" And now you had to look up 2 or 3 other veteran musicians and get them in it too. So I made a lot of extra work for the poor guy. I apologize again for that.
He was a history professor of Vietnam.
Yes. Touched by the Blues, Stories of the Unsung Heroes of the Blues, by Eli Marcus, Sun House Press. I wrote Healing from Vietnam by Writing and Singing the Blues. They really gave me a nice spot in that book.
And that's from Israel.
Published in Israel. Homefront, Vietnam and Families at War by Willard D. Gray. The Lincecum Family, there's a whole chapter, chapter 9. Homeless, the Lincecum Family. And Revival, spoken word from Lollapalooza 94. I was a slam poet, and I competed in the National Slam Poetry Competition 5 years in a row as the captain of the Phoenix Slam Poetry team, and I had to slam my way into that position. It wasn't a give me. I had to beat them all to get to that position. And I'm the 1994 Slam Haiku Poet Champion of the United States. And the haiku poem that I did to win was this. Let's talk politics. Crime, corruption, greed, treason. Okay, I'm done now. That put me so far ahead nobody could catch me. They do like Olympic 8.9. I got 10s. And Poetry Slam, The Competitive Art of Performance Poetry, edited by Gary Mex Glasner, and producer of the first National Poetry Slam, done by Manic D Press. And my poem Snap is in there. This is a horrible poem for me. It's the last 3 minutes of a veteran's life before he opens his front door and slowly raises an empty gun towards the police that are all outside. And the last words that he says, he's laughing hysterically earlier in the poem, and the last words he says was, "Oh, that was me shooting, but it wasn't me laughing." And then that was the favorite mode of suicide for Vietnam vets, and we're really good at that. For every name on the wall, we've had 3 suicides since the end of the Vietnam War. Over 150,000 suicides and 58,000 names on the wall. So that's something that I've been trying to help by counseling vets through our PTSD help site. And I think I've made some good. A dear friend of mine, I talked him out of drinking. The first cut on post-traumatic stress disorder blues is called PTSD Blues, and I start with a short talk. And this is a talk that has turned more PTSD vets around than anything I've ever come up with or told them. And that is, I say, well, what are you going to tell the guys that didn't make it home alive when you see them again? Here we are living this horrible life, making life miserable for ourselves and our loved ones, day after day. What are you going to tell your brothers when you see them again. They're not going to want to hear this horrible story. They want to hear about the life they'd imagine having if they'd have made it home alive. And then I end that little talk with, let's all make sure we have a hell of a good story to tell them. And then it goes right into the heavy rock and roll PTSD blues. I tried to make as many different kinds of music. I have rock and roll, blues, beat poetry, jazz, country western, a 1940s style song in honor of my father. It's just a shotgun blast of styles to try and get one for everybody. I don't do hip-hop or rap, so I'm at a big disadvantage, but I try to do everything I can do. So that's, it's just amazing. I've been so blessed to be able to help other PTSD vets, and I can really put a lot of time into that now that I control my everyday instead of PTSD, and I'm real grateful for that. I know how to get out of the jungle.
Well, thank you, Sarge. And as we come to the conclusion of this, you're sharing your story with us, and thank you for taking the time to do that. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with future generations about your service and your life?
Well, I think I could sum it up with the opening spoken word piece on Vietnam Blues CD called Vietnam Blues. I want to tell you about some blues I got one time in a little place called Vietnam. Now, I guess Vietnam's about as far away from here as you can get, because it didn't seem to matter which way the jet flew. Sometimes we'd go east, sometimes west, but no matter, 22 hours later, there you are in Vietnam. Now, I did 3 tours over there, 26 months, in which time I came down with malaria 3 times, jungle rot, immersion foot, 2 kinds of internal parasites, a shrapnel wound in my leg, and Agent Orange all over my body. I'm talking blues now, Jack. Well, you run into 2 kinds of Vietnam combat veterans. Some can't talk about it, and some can't stop. But there's one thing we've all got in common. Sometimes we get thinking of the guys and gals that didn't make it back, and we come down with a real bad case of the Vietnam blues.
On that note, Sarge, on behalf of the Veterans History Project, myself and all veterans, thank you for taking the time to share your story with us.
And I want to tell them to be sure and check out VietnamBlues.com.